also want you to know I've been recording for the last 90 seconds.
Yeah, I saw when I saw those like red bars coming on, I was just like, you son of a bitch.
But yeah, how have you been then? This is the proper first episode.
Yeah. This is the actual episode 1 to the last one, which is I guess is going to be called the Pilot.
The Pilot, the Lost Tapes, episode 0.
Episode 0.
But yeah, how have you been the last 2 weeks or 3 weeks it's been since we last recorded? How did you take away that experience?
Oh, I felt like it was a refreshing experience anyways. Like I was so happy and chuffed of me just getting behind a mic and talking for like, how long did we go? An hour?
An hour. Because I knew that one wouldn't be the first official, because the first time you ever do anything, it's not going to be the first one you put out. We're going to put it out anyway because it's hilarious. We'll probably release it double bill after this one. Yeah, I knew that it wouldn't go out because it was your first time properly sitting behind a microphone, and it is intimidating because like it's not just as easy as, hey, just put on a mic and talk to your friend, because you look down and you're like, hello.
And I remember we put up notes on like, so what did we like after we watched it, like or listened to it again, not watched it, but like listened to it again. We were like putting up notes, and I remember you put up like 3, and I was just like, well, I'm going to put up quite a few because
number 1, Tato porn.
Tato porn. That's if we actually don't release the first one and we just said Tato porn in this one, I would find
episode
that quite
1
funny.
Tato porn.
yeah. And we'll release the first, like the Pilot, the episode 01, but remove the Tato porn.
Do you know why they call it the pilot?
No.
Because it's the first time going on the air.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, there
is
you
that
go.
Is that actually real?
I read it on the internet, so I'm presuming it is. But yeah, any news, anything happening in the last 2 weeks? Because that's kind of the way we're structuring this, where it's not going to be weekly, because if it was weekly, we literally just have nothing to say.
Yeah, I think I'm starting to work on I'll call it a project, I guess, but it's really just me doing my own thing. When I was over at Years for like,
is this your slam poetry?
Yeah, my amazing musical talents. I wanted the animated that, or like something from that.
Oh, I can't wait. It's probably gonna turn into cosmic horror by the end of it.
Yeah, it just. I don't even know how to start it. I mean, I remember I pulled up the audio again and I was like, whoa.
Mind blown.
I don't know what I did. It's a weird one. If it will ever be released, maybe.
Either way, I can't wait to see it, because you have to hear that audio to understand what it is, and I don't want to give away what it is.
We could probably show a snip clip here,
I'll have to. Let me just reminder, putting clip here of Matthew's magnum opus. Or if not, it'd be really funny if I didn't. But yeah, one thing I want to talk about is the worst kept secret on the internet. That is the Flash movie. Everything has been revealed about that movie already.
Yeah. Miles Morales is there.
Like
Seven Deadly Sins is there.
That was one thing I want to bring up, because I remember Barbara Muschetti, the director's wife, was complaining that people were taking public photos of the person playing Supergirl, and she's like, guys, please don't take photos, it'll ruin the movie. Whereas the people are like, if they're shooting in a public space, they're allowed to take photos. So this week, the return of Batfleck. Have you seen the photos?
No.
Yeah, Ben Affleck's Batman's coming back for this movie.
What?
Yeah.
That's kind of cool. I actually quite liked Ben Affleck's Batman.
I'll show you the photos after the fact, but yeah, he has this big bat bike, and I don't know, like, I think it's funny that, they're trying, this movie was really mysterious. It wasn't Flashpoint. Then there was even more set leaks, actual from inside soundstage, where they were in Keaton's Batcave, and there's 2 Barry Allens, a stunt double for Ezra Miller, so he's literally playing 2 Barrys. And I'm just like, how the hell does this keep happening? And then I remember Andy Samberg, who was making Shazam, before production began, he just released a photo of the cast in costumes. Like, yeah, I'd rather do it on my own terms. Whereas Barbara Michelle's like, please don't leak our costumes. And then on the other side of the spectrum, hey, Spider-Man, how's it going?
Yeah. And the multiverse of madness. It's weird that, everyone's jumping to it now.
Yeah, let's be honest, the Flash movie is just going to be a soft reboot of everything.
Oh, fuck yeah. I mean, keeping in tradition of what people thought the movies were going to become, the comics. But yeah, it's turning into like a hodgepodge of tons of like I don't know. It's just tons of fucking actors and people. Wait, I also have a thing. Didn't Ezra Miller get cancelled at like some
I
point?
remember that because like he slam choked a woman, but apparently that was just them quote unquote playing, and like that didn't look like it. He was saying like, "Oh, do you want to fight, bro? Do you want to fight, bro?" And he goes for her neck and she falls onto the ground. I'm like, are we just gonna let that slide?
They were playing WWE. All right.
Like I don't know. Like, well, then again, like I think Warner Brothers are so weird because again, Amber Heard's coming back for Aquaman 2.
I can't believe that. I mean, that whole situation.
Emilia Clarke, man, just get her.
What?
Emilia Clarke for Mira.
I would have actually liked when I saw clips of like or even rumors of her becoming Mira. I was like, "Fuck yeah, I'm down."
Like
with that.
I don't know. DC is weird. Like they're afraid of handling the same IP multiple times, whereas Marvel's like, yeah, we're just here it is. And then there's another contender I want to throw into the ring, Capcom with their Resident Evil franchise. So they released an anime series that I still have to watch, which is just Resident Evil anime. Anything is just the most bombastic shit you'll ever watch.
Yeah.
And then they're rebooting the movies. It's coming out this year actually, and it's
what really?
yeah,
didn't
it's
know
shot
that.
and all. Yeah, it's based on the first two games. They have the cast. I'll show you that after. And they're releasing another live action show for Netflix, and they're kind of like just changing up the characters. Lance Roderick, the guy who plays the concierge in John Wick.
Yes.
He's playing Albert Wesker. So
no way.
I think he'll be really cool as it. But like Capcom's like, yeah, Resident Evil, just throw everything. Whereas DC's like, no, we can't have 2 Batmen. There's 3 Batmen. Oh, you're pushing your luck now, son.
I really hope he does a really good like wacky version of Wesker, because I love Resident Evil 5 Wesker, where he's just like,
nah, Chris.
Yeah.
Chris, come here. Give me a cuddle, Chris. I got 7 minutes, Chris.
Hey, Chris, throw my glasses. I caught your glasses.
But like, I'm kind of skeptical about the movie because it's taking place in Raccoon City and the first game, and the cast is huge. Like you've literally Chris, Leon, Jill, Claire, Albert Wesker, all the stars members. I'm like, this is just gonna be too much.
Yeah, I mean, Chris and Leon don't even interact
until 6.
I
for
know,
1 moment.
like that's kind of bad.
But then there's the whole Redfield lineage. I don't know if you know that meme.
Yes, where Chris is dying for Leon to make babies.
He wants to continue the Redfield lineage. That is some of my favorite shit posting. I'm pretty sure I showed you like the really good like lip sync animation.
Yes,
like
yeah.
it's just something like that. Like that's based on actual media, and it just they made that, and it's so funny. But like like I said, DC is like, no, please, 3 Batman, that's too much. Whereas like Marvel's like, yeah, we're just gonna have like hundreds of the same character now, which. Like,
yeah.
I enjoyed Loki. It had a phenomenal setup, but I'm just afraid the payoff is going to be too much.
For Loki?
Just the next stage of the Marvel movies in general.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck, here we go, talking about comics again. Get it away, no more comics.
Throw it out of here, get it out. Let's talk about...
The numbers on the back of your parents' credit card. But no, this episode we kind of just want to go down to our roots and just talk about creativity, because believe it or not, it's one of the hardest things about fucking being one of many interruptions. You know what?
Yes.
You can stay here if you're nice. I'll close the door.
He must have been outside. He's slightly wet in the top.
Oh, that means he's gonna for context, my dog just kind of ran into the room. He's a little escape artist. We have a little gate at the bottom of the stairs that he's able to get through. But creativity, like a lot of people don't understand when the process of creating, you think the idea just pops in your head and you just start animating or recording. No, the thing that stops most people from doing that is that I'm doing you now.
It's that side of the room. I swear to God, it's just like that side of the room makes people.
Because I find my least favorite part of doing any project is all the paperwork. I hate sitting down and having to write. Because I'm like, I'd rather just do it.
Dude, I have like so many like. My brain fucking hurts every time I have to write anything on page. I rather instantly just jump into it than write anything, which is problematic because then at halfway through I'll be like, man, I'm bored of this project. Yeah. I'll throw it away. And it's just like, nah, I should probably write it down. Even if it's the worst part, it's like it's still technically necessary to keep you going.
Because like,
yeah,
because like, the thing I envy about animation is it's just if you can think of it, you can do it.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's in a similar boat where like, you can probably actually half-ass an animation.
1 second, I'm getting called.
Oh.
You fuck. You fuck. You fucking fuck.
You fucking fuck?
You fucking fuck.
I'm a fucking fuck?
Yeah, you're a fucking fuck.
Who the fuck? Who the fuck?
You're a fucking fuck. Also, you're being recording into a microphone. Say hi, everyone.
Hi to the podcast.
Hello.
Say hi, Matthew.
Hi.
What was I talking about again? Oh yeah, I remember. That with animation, that if you can more or less do it.
Yeah. And I was about to say that animation is weird, right? You could probably not finish a project, and it would still like kind of come off sometimes really well. Like, I mean, not every animation technically needs a story to it. I mean, it's animation
Show
is
don't tell.
yeah, animation is the best outlet for show not tell. Well, obviously there's like restraints and stuff when it comes to filming people, and it's just like, unless you have a whole CGI team, then you could probably get into like
the Rococo suits.
Yeah. But animation, there's a lot of freedom in it.
Because like it's one I definitely want to learn, but it's like it's so tedium is what will probably stop me. Like, you know, of course,
Stopped me multiple times.
yeah, like, you know, it's just if like doing it properly, like, you know, literally frame by frame by frame, like, you know, frame like I know on average like you do frames on 2, just because again it just holds it that bit longer, but it's just learning that process, you know. It's like I said, I want to try everything, but man, like one thing I want to see more of is just horror and animation. Like, we've all seen that music video on YouTube with the kids at the pool.
Oh yes,
That was like, I remember that was one of the first videos to traumatize me on YouTube.
Yeah, that was that's weird, right? Because that's very inspired by
H.P. Lovecraft.
H.P. Lovecraft, the
Cosmic
racist
horror.
himself.
Yeah.
But
Don't Google his cat's name.
it's a forbidden name. But yeah, which usually when you draw cosmic horror or like even depicted in any way, it's not usually the same as.
It's a lot harder to pull across because, like, you know, the whole idea of cosmic horror is witnessing something that makes you just literally feel like a bit of sand in the universe.
Yeah.
But that one was like one of the first. The scene that got me in that animated music video was after she goes into the pool and she goes into this other world and she looks up at this being and her eyes literally explode.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but that just terrified me.
I mean, maybe it's because I'm not very horrified by cosmic horror. I was more horrified by, and this was when I was younger, I guess, which was weird. You'd think when you're younger you would still be horrified by cosmic horror, but I wasn't so much. I was more so scared of the drooping body dysphoria that happened in it. That
just the body horror.
Body horror, yeah. That happened in it. That it's like.
But then again, they're all sexual innuendos as well.
Yeah.
You know, so of course it's a lot more visceral.
Yeah.
But I want to see more stuff like that, and I think you and I can both agree. We're gonna bring up his name again. Lord praise him. The Junji Ito collection was just bad.
Yeah.
Like, I remember The Woman Next Door was just this. It was just a still frame that slowly zoomed in, and I was like, oh my god, that is abysmal.
Well, somebody figured out the zoom in. Was that a joke?
But like, I don't like. It's funny. Like, most horror animation in general is all in kids media.
Yeah, I
like,
mean,
you got Monster House, which is one that comes to my mind. Coraline, which is stop motion, and you got Courage the Cowardly Dog.
Yeah, I still hate the this like annoying thing that animation has to be for kids. But it's like, I mean, even in like a few adult animations that we have, 90% of them are just comedies.
Yeah.
It's just because, like,
Look at the funny animated man said a bad word. He's animated, guys. Animation's for kids. Get
I
it?
know, but it's like, there's so much potential there that, like, you can do a lot of fucking shit. I mean, I think the most we got from adult animations was back in the 70s. That was like the prime time for it. I mean, Studio Ghibli films are mainly for
Younger
kids,
audiences.
younger audiences anyways, but some of the stuff that he's made is definitely adult themed. And
Another
it's
one I
for
just
the
remembered
adults.
now was, did you ever hear of Watership Down?
I love that movie.
Yeah, like that's a kids movie, but oh my god,
Mm.
like genuinely, it's a horror movie.
Yeah, I mean, what you call it, Guillermo del Toro, when he was becoming a well-known director. Now I'm not sure if this is 100% correct, but he said that, like, watching Watership Down is like going through a passage.
Yeah,
Like, it's like this shows things that in a light, because he I think he was showing it as a kid, and
yeah.
he didn't think it was going to be so visceral and like.
And no one does, because
No, yeah.
it looks like, just made for TV animation. But then when it actually all, okay, Bailey, I'll let you out for fuck's sake. Jesus Christ, dog. Talk about Sonic 2.
Sonic 2. Yeah, right. I'm more of a Sonic 3 guy. Sonic 3 is pretty cool. Yeah. I played it. I'm reading Hitchhikers. I'm reading The Hobbit. I'm reading the Many Things at the moment.
I think, therefore I am.
Yeah.
But yeah, Watership Down, because like it looks like, the movies that look like they're made for TV,
Mm.
and it has this cute little appearance of all the animals, but then when it just gets visceral, that's when it's like, oh my god.
Yeah.
And then they remade it, what was it, 2 years ago for like CG?
Did they remake that?
Yeah, they remade it 2 years ago, all CG, and I haven't heard anything about it, so obviously it didn't do well.
Yeah. I mean, I hope the fuck they didn't make it like tame.
But like I said, one of my favorite things about animation is just the possibility of anything.
Yeah.
That, like, because with movies, like, here's an argument for you. Are the Marvel movies more of an animated movie than live action movie?
There's an argument to be made there because CGI is animation. I
Like,
mean,
Endgame, for example, like, it's just like, how much of that movie is actually like most of the
humans.
practical things is just the actors.
Yeah.
Like, I love them movies, but the one thing I hate is just knowing that most of the backgrounds aren't there, that they're just green walls, blue walls.
Yeah. It's weird. I mean, I don't 100% knock it. I mean, it's like,
It's impressive.
yeah, I mean, and if anything, it's the best way to approach superhero movies. Superheroes are at core quite goofy and animated. So it's like you kind of need to do something like that. And CGI is definitely like worth like everything it deserves. I mean, it's helped so much. I mean, CGI works, I think, still at its best when it is mixed with practical. But I mean, again, with
when you don't
the
notice
Avengers,
it's there, that's when it works.
yeah, and I mean, the fact that Avengers is all CGI kind of is it to its benefit, because that means there is no real thing there to be jarring to you, where it's like, whoa, hold on a damn second there, that's not real. The most they actually do have on set is probably a puddle, because
Reflections.
fuck CGI and like puddles.
The water physics haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah.
Because, like, I hope that Invincible is a Kickstarter for more adult-oriented animation.
Yeah.
Because there is an audience for it. Like, it's just, like, when, like I said earlier, with horror animation, that, like, Courage the Cowardly Dog, like, everyone remembers King Ramses from Courage the Cowardly Dog, Return the Slab.
Yeah.
But the reason why he was so weird is because they were traditional 2D, but he was just this CGI thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, his animation doesn't look great, but that's the point. It's like, oh, otherworldly.
I mean, with 90s comedy, or especially in kids media, there's like or late 90s. No, I'd say 90s overall. But like in SpongeBob, they used grotesque.
Yeah, they're like there'd be them the close-up frames.
Yeah, and it's like, and they go like really in detail about everything, and it's just like that is really funny for one, but also that is also slight glimpses into what horror animation can really be. And I mean, we still have to wait for Junji Ito's like Uzumaki to come out.
It's been delayed again, but hopefully for a good reason.
Yeah, I mean all that COVID stuff, especially in Japan. Japan's not taking it very well, but
because like what people don't understand is like, you know, most of the shows people watch are literally just thrown to other studios. It's not done in house anymore. It's like, oh, you can do it.
Yeah.
But that's just a glimpse of what people can do. But that's the difficult thing about it, is that, like, you know, because I'd say you have so much ideas that you just can't never settle on one.
Yeah. I think what you call it? There's a lot of comics, right, that have come out. And I mean, comics were originally for kids. I mean, I say originally, they still had
there was comics and graphic novels. That was the difference.
Yeah. But eventually comics were just, I mean, not adult themed, but obviously preteens and teens, because some of the stuff at this point is more like edgy now. I think during the 90s it got its worst when it went edgy, and then during 2000s it loosened up on its edginess, but it got edgier in different ways. Like, I mean, I don't know how we got back to comics, but but
I should get a bell every time.
yeah. But I'll use this quick example and then move away from comics, but or back to animation. But A Death in the Family was hugely significant, mainly for the fact that
Jason Todd was murdered in it.
Yeah.
But then, like 10 pages later, Joker's the ambassador of, I can't remember what country, but he's an ambassador. I was like, I have diplomatic immunity. He's like, is this the same comic?
Yeah. And it's fascinating, for one, like some kids would buy that on. I mean, I think there would definitely be a label back then, because on it that would say but if comics have made the change, and comics were originally for kids, I can't see why animation hasn't done that yet, because there's so many good adult themed comics with great illustrations for
I'm
adults.
going to recommend you a manga that you probably heard of that's kind of based in horror. Did you ever hear Blood on the Tracks?
Blood on the Tracks
by Shunzi Ashini.
Sunji.
I think I spelled his name right. I have bad handwriting.
It's not brown.
But pretty much the story is so. I'll show you some of the panels, but the story is pretty much how it opens off is a family's going on a little hiking trip.
Yeah.
And the cousin pushes over the main character, and his
I know
mother,
the one you're talking about.
Yeah.
I think I own this manga actually.
If you do, can I borrow it, please?
Yeah.
But it's the one where the mother pushes the nephew off the cliff.
And then she gives that awful smile. And
Yeah.
You're like, holy
that was visceral horror.
I love that.
If you have that, can I please borrow it?
Yeah,
I was looking
yeah.
on Amazon.
I'll see if I have it in one of my shelves. I'm not sure. Do I have that? I might actually have that in my cart. I don't, like, in my Amazon cart. I don't know if I have it.
Because that was one that was recommended to me. Because the main thing that inspired me to be a filmmaker was horror. Like, it's just horror, like animation. It's the one where you have the most freedom to do anything and you can get experimental with it. And I'm trying to just find different types of horror. Like, you know, I love video games. I love audio stories. But, like, this one was the first time I've ever seen the primal fear of, like, oh, my family member is deranged and I'm only a kid. Because I remember there was another horrific panel in it where you're in the perspective of the child, and he's like about 2 foot tall, and the mother's walking at such a frantic pace. He's like, Mom, wait up. And when she turns around and looks at him, I was like, I feel a primal fear in me. But it's just, the thing about that panel is, like, it's not overly drawn, it's just detail-y drawn, but it's just, once you know the context.
Yeah.
But like I said, with filmmaking, like, you know, the best kind of horror movies are the ones where they have no budget. Like, you know, I'm trying
Yeah.
my best to just experiment and get weird with it. Because, like, I hate how overproduced horror movies are now. Like,
Yeah.
look at The Conjuring is the one everyone will point to, and I'll agree.
It gives them a lot of leeway, and I think that, like, to truly get well made things, you kind of have to choke them by the neck on
Yeah.
like how much you can give them. I mean, there's a good and bad thing for that, for the fact that if you decrease the money, you're decreasing their income, and it's like sometimes that can be painful. I mean, technically you don't really need it's weird. Like, in animation wise, right? Like, people always say the best animated seasons of any animated show comes from on the verge of cancellation, because then
That's when they have to put it all in.
Yeah, I mean, one of the best examples for that is Star Wars: The Clone Wars. When it was on the verge of cancellation,
Season
it provided
7 came out. Yeah.
it provided one of the best watching experiences for children at that time. And was it for children? I don't fucking think so, because it's so well written that it's like quite like adult themed, but kids could also still grasp because they know kids aren't fucking dumb.
And they recently released like the spiritual sequel, Bad Batch.
I haven't watched it yet, but I do. My Owen did watch it, I think, and he kept telling me to watch it. No, he didn't tell me to watch it, but he said, "Have you watched it yet? Have you watched it yet?" And I'm like,
So you take that as a recommendation.
"Yeah, I presume so."
Because, like, I have a soft spot for all the classic cheesy horror movies. Because I know that they didn't have a lot to work with, so they made it work. Like, it's hard to call it a horror, but it kind of is. But the first Saw movie, for example.
Yeah.
Like, people just rewatch that and you'll realize how different it is from the rest of the movies. It isn't about the traps.
Yeah.
It is an actual, like, escape room, like what's going on, an actual mystery.
Yeah.
You want these people to survive, but then you realize they're all shitty people. But the budget for that movie was so small, but they made it work.
I absolutely loved the first movie, and I do also like the second movie, but maybe for different reasons, because that is literally just cool. What traps can we think of? But I still like it for that, and
Because it was creative, but then that was the only thing the series had to fall back on. It wasn't interesting then.
Yeah, I mean, because then the series was just like, oh, what twist can we do now? What twist? Because it became more twist-like. I'm like,
you're like, oh, like they advertise a twist. And I go, oh, I can't wait to see. I bet it was that person. Oh,
Yeah.
look at that! It was that person.
But like, Saw wasn't really about was it this person or like mystery-wise. It's like it's more about like,
Twisted morals,
and also and
like the determination to live as well.
yeah, and character studies on like different people and like who they were in the past, and should they be judged at now because they could be different. It's a really good film, the first one, and the second one's again good for different reasons, because I think they blow their load on all the cool traps.
Yeah.
And then all the rest of them are like
the worst trap in all the movies is in the second one, and it's the needle pit.
oh god, yeah, like all used heroin needles, and they're
Yeah.
just like, girl, go in there,
Like,
get the cure.
'cause the reason why that visceral horror works is we've all been injected. We know the stinging sensation of a needle. But
Yeah.
imagine that just all over your body. Like,
Yeah.
It's like, ugh.
It's not nice.
But, like, you know, with big studios giving, like, lots, like, mind you, like, these aren't, like, the most high-budget movies, because they kind of want to just get as much as they can from horror. Like, the budget for The Conjuring, I guarantee it's probably not above 50 million. But even then, that's a lot of wiggle room. Like, we can make the sets we want. We can do this. We can do that. Because I was recommended a movie recently, and I watched it. I enjoyed it for the most part. A bit boring, but it's called Possessor. I don't know if you've heard of it.
I
David
don't think so.
Cronenberg. But pretty much, like, the idea is there's this corporate assassin who literally is put into people's bodies, and she lives through them to fill out the contracts, and she kind of disassociates from herself. And it gets very interesting. But the thing about it is, it's very visceral. Like, a lot of practicality.
Yeah.
And that's the thing I think missing from a lot of movies now is, because, like, you see CG blood, like, look at the jam.
Yeah. That is a good point. I mean, I actually really do love the first Conjuring, and I do love the second one as well. I haven't watched the third one, but
I heard don't.
But I will say there was a bit missing from the second one, for the fact that they did rely a lot more on CGI than in the first one. The first one was like trying to keep it grounded with just like the most famous thing, and and it's just like that's
simple.
Yeah, and it really works. But then in the second movie, when they use CGI, and don't get me wrong, there's some great monster designs. I love the Crooked Man. That idea is.
I didn't like him.
That's
It
also
just
fair.
I don't know. I think it's just because he sang. It took me out.
He sang.
Did he sing? Am I just making stuff up now?
I think the thing that did sing was the roundabout thing, and that's probably carried out throughout the scene. But
yeah, maybe, but we'll have to fact check after.
yeah,
But
yeah.
you've seen The Wailing, haven't you?
Yes.
That's another example of just visceral horror. When there probably was like hidden CGI, but it's just no one's heard of it. It probably had a low budget, but man, like the ending when that certain character is revealed to be who he is.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, why is this giving me shivers? And like, he has the camera and you see the slow. I'm like, ugh.
I think that's also what makes Korean and I would say Japanese, because a lot of their filming techniques are kind of similar. I mean, Korean's a bit different in writing wise, I would say. But I'm really glad that a lot of horror, not anymore in Japan. Japan has used CGI way too fucking much now, and their
Berserk
CGI,
2017.
yeah, and their CGI is not on comparable like heights to Hollywood. And Korea obviously don't really still do it. Or maybe they do. I don't know. I haven't actually watched a lot more stuff outside of Bong Joon-ho's movies or.
But even then, like Parasite,
The Wailing.
there was a lot of CGI in Parasite that people don't understand. That nice big house,
That's true.
It doesn't exist.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was the first Hollywood produced or like Hollywood big budget.
I think
Korean
so.
film.
I'm not too sure at the top of my head, but like that's what I mean. Like that's when the CGI works.
Yeah.
But the thing about like the difference between the East and the West is like, I think I was having this conversation with you, like watching just Japanese anime or Korean movies. You see how they live. You see their dwellings, you see their streets, and it's completely different to us. So we have that disconnect of like, especially with horror, it's like, that's not how I do it. So you already have that weird like, this is alien to me, which works in their favor.
Yeah.
Whereas like now everything is over here is bastardized. They know everything here. Like look at China for example. Everything's practically made for China now.
Yeah. I mean, what you call it? Japan in the 90s and early 2000s, they were producing some of the most horrifying movies I think I've ever seen. But then they brought it to America, and America was just like
The Ring.
Yeah, and I still can't remember the internet one. Remember it was the one with the ghost in the
Pulse,
yes. Where they brought it over to America, and their filming style, I don't know why they changed the filming style, because obviously a script was made for a certain filming style, not for quick cuts, dramatic jump scares and stuff. It's just like Japan didn't really work like that at that point, and it worked really to its favor.
Jump scares are a good tool, but if you just overuse them, they're going to lose their effect.
Yeah.
Like if a jump scare is like a cat jumps in front of a frame, I hate that so much.
Yeah.
Like a false scare, like someone walks into the room. But like I said, I'm very horror oriented. I want to make a lot of horror stuff. I don't want to just be stuck to horror, but that's the one I want to kind of just work on now. Like, what about you? Like in your own time, what type of stuff do you want to work on?
There's a lot of stuff. I've recently got into a liking of cosmic beings, not like cosmic horror. Like I'm more of a fan of
the monsters then.
Yeah, and not even just monsters. I like the concept of like gods so big and comparable to us that like, why would they give two shits for us?
They'll see our planet and just go crush in the palm of my hand.
Yeah, I mean, maybe this isn't a great example because it's not that God doesn't, or like this godlike being,
this flying spaghetti monster.
This godlike being is in favor, or like again, like just doesn't know the humans exist because this person does know. Anyways, I'll name the book. The book is The Inkle, a phenomenal book. I would recommend anybody read. even lend it to you if you want it.
Okay.
But it's a phenomenal book.
Possibly Blood on the Tracks, and now this.
Yeah, and I think it's one of the first unlikable heroes, like in comics, anyways. And it's really well done. He's given this power, right? That can all he has to do is follow it without any will of his own. If he just follows it, everything will go right. But he doesn't trust it. He doesn't like
It's
the
like
idea that
unreliable narration in a way.
yeah, and he doesn't like the idea that this thing is doing everything for him. It's like, can I have something that's me? And it's just like
pride and ego, the downfall of all men.
And at the very end, and I don't know if I want to say it, but it's such a satisfying moment where he sees something bigger than him, and he's like,
Well,
oh,
shit.
I get it now. The inkle, the thing that tells him what to do, makes sense. And it's just like, I really should have been following it, and he does follow it, but like sometimes reluctantly. But when he sees this giant being, he starts crying, and then like realizes, wow, I actually was working to something that he probably won't understand yet. And it's a really satisfying read. I mean, there's a love plot in it that's a bit dated, but it's
damsel in distress kind, or
no, it's just that this girl falls in love really quickly, and it kind of comes out of nowhere at some point, but it's not like the worst.
It's a sign of the times.
Yeah, and it's a really well done book. I will also say that book does have a prequel and a sequel to it. Both suck, in my opinion. I hate them, and they shouldn't exist. There's a book called Before the Inkle, and there's a book called The Last Inkle, and they both suck. I don't like them whatsoever. They introduce the main character, like you get more backstory on the main character, and it's just like, you didn't really need that. You already knew he's a dick and like a douchebag, and like it. But it's a really good read. Just the Inkle is a really good read, but the other books of the Inkle.
Because I've books over there, like 3 books sitting on my locker over there. They're based, so pretty much they're called Tales from the Gas Station, and they were originally just a creepypasta on Reddit. But they got so successful that the guy was able to turn them into books. And it's kind of comedic horror, which is something I don't see a lot.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it has like this cosmic sense to it. Like, I don't want to spoil it too much because I would recommend it.
Yeah.
Like,
especially in written form.
Yeah. So pretty much like the basis is there's this guy and he works at a gas station, and he has this fatal insomnia, so he can't even sleep. And all this weird shit is just happening around him, and he kind of just accepts it's his reality.
Yeah.
But like, one of the reoccurring things is behind the gas station, these literal hand plants start growing. Yeah. He's like, I don't know what to do. And I enjoy it because it's fun to see horror kind of poke fun at itself.
Yeah.
Like, there's a bit towards the end where, like, you know, the villain, they think they killed him. Like, he gets like, his neck slit open, and he's just kind of there on the floor. So, like, the main character, he just puts a wet floor sign behind them. But then, like, something happens in the book, and they're trapped at the gas station. So what do? They get shit-faced. They just start drinking, and the corpse of the villain starts speaking to the main character, and he's like, "You're losing it, man." He's like, "No, I'm not." And they start talking, and one of the guy goes, "Hey, Jack, what are you doing?" He's like, "Oh, I'm talking to Spencer." He's like, "Can you not?" It's kind of creeping us out. Yeah. Like, it's just funny stuff like that.
Yeah. And
it has like all different entities. Like, I'd recommend it. It's not for everyone because it's so like, a story is happening, but it's so loose. It's more about the events of the gas station.
Yeah.
But like, at the end, he's confronted with this being, and I don't know why. It's just so funny. Like, there is like a dark god living under the gas station, and what the dark god's agenda is, I laughed my ass off.
Yeah. By the way, that does sound really interesting.
You can borrow the first book if you want.
It's also weird because I only really hear comedy horror in like movies, and I never heard it in a book. So that is going to probably be an interesting read. But I also want to bring back like to the Inkle thing. When I spoke about that out loud, now that I think about it, I think that writer might be really Christian. Because it's a guy who's who's saying something bigger than him. I don't know. Maybe is that Chris? No, I don't think so. The guy who wrote it, by the way, is the guy who originally thought of the Dune movie, the first Dune movie.
Oh yeah.
You know,
so
where
he
it's
has this
like-
big sense of scale.
Yeah, and he had like that Bible anyway, like that like movie.
Yeah, I've
Bible?
seen the.
Yeah,
Fucking Christ, nerds, am I right?
yeah, and but he wrote the Inkle because he didn't get the movie done, and he had so many ideas in the Dune movie that he was like, "Fuck it, let's just make it into a comic."
And the worst example of that, in my opinion, is J.K. Rowling.
Oh yeah.
Not because of her viewpoints. Her viewpoints are just a crime in themselves. But I hate people who like will always just retcon their own work.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. It's nice that she wants to include like a more diverse like
Yeah.
people in.
But contradicting herself over things that she's already written, I'm like, no, you can't just change that.
Yeah, and it's that's a really like annoying thing, because if you really wanted to include or like make something that doesn't retcon something, or like if you're ashamed that you have written a straight white, like primarily like white protagonist and like all that stuff book,
Everyone's white.
yeah, then it's like, if you're ashamed of that, then don't go ahead and change it. Go to a new thing and make a new thing. Now, don't get me wrong. Obviously, I
It's very touchy, very.
yeah, because that's also annoying, because technically that is her baby. She worked on Harry Potter for like 20 years, and it's like, yeah, that's a lot. Is it 20 years?
It's probably older than that.
Yeah, but so I understand why she wants to cling to it and also make it more welcoming to
Everyone.
newer audiences.
There's also could be just the fact that she's a shitty person. She's trying to like, please guys, I've changed my ways, please.
Yeah. Oh, the fact that she's like a trans hoe as well isn't like.
Yeah.
And she has no intentions of changing that either, because she just fights people on it. Yeah,
Well,
that's a bit annoying.
But what do you say with like most, like I know like a lot of Eastern media, like Japanese media, Korean media influence you on your work, but like genre wise, like what would you say you would be like what you'd want to create? Like I said, I'd want to make a lot of horror stuff at the moment.
Yeah, I would. I'm a large fan of adventure stories, or like, and adventure stories can span like a lot of stuff. The one thing I don't want to do is Earth shit. Like, I think people experience Earth every day of their fucking lives. I don't think.
What about the guys in space?
So true, actually. I mean, they witness it a lot. They
but
look
like,
at Earth a lot.
I get what you mean. Like Earth is now so mundane. Like
Yeah.
just other worlds. Like that's why like one of my favorite aesthetics is steampunk and cyberpunk.
Yeah.
Because it's just like I love the viscerality of it. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be Earth, but you can imply it is. But it's just if you're
That's
gonna do
true,
Earth, have something different about it.
Yeah, I mean, like, Blade Runner is one of my favorite movies, and is that Earth actually? I can't remember.
It is.
Yeah,
It's the first Blade Runner is actually set in like 2019, I think.
Oh yeah, it is. Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember that. And then it was 2049, which is
Yeah.
like they said it like 20 years ahead. So then, yeah, I remember that. I did like that. And then,
Let me just look out the window. Nope, no flying cars still.
Yeah, and I love that world that was presented in that film. And yeah, you can do Earth and change it up, and I'm totally fine with that. But there's a thing in Japanese media, anyways, where they love this plot, and I have no idea why, but they love the plot of somebody from this world right now is blasted off into a new world. Now, I'm not sure if this is because Japan read Narnia and we're like, holy fuck, that's a cool idea. A person being in a shitty world moving to a cool ass world, that's fucking awesome.
That's like the imagination of every 5-year-old.
Yeah, and it's just like, I totally understand it, like, but Japan has a like love boner with that plot, and it's like, I don't like when a person with a gun go into a fantasy world or something like that, or like
freeze, and then they use some telekinetic bullshit to go boom, boom, boom.
And I also understand that plot mechanism because it then provides the reader with a stand-in where they're like, whoa, look at this new world, and it's like and you're looking through their perspective on this new world, and like that's fine. That's a way to do it. I don't really like the plot anymore. I mean, I did obviously. At one point.
It's you're like, okay, I've seen it. Okay, I've seen it.
And what I just want to do is now, I guess I just want to make a new weirdly either fantasy, sci-fi, or just going out there kind of worlds. But I do also understand the need of having a character who's experienced something new, so you can experience with them. And
unfortunately, we live in a world where nothing is original anymore, though.
That's so true. Yeah, I mean, if you really think about that plot, I mean, technically, fucking everything is that plot in
story of Jesus.
I mean, in Narnia, kids who were in World War II go into
the wardrobe.
Yeah, and then they experience
they become royalty.
And that's cool. In Hitchhikers, a normal dude on Earth is like flung out into space into a new world.
So
now
long, and thanks for all the fish.
So long, and thanks. I still need to get to that book. I'm on the second book, but and then what other stories? There's like a bunch of game stories in Japan where it's like Tenshigami 3 or Tenshigami anything really is like, and Harry Potter is technically that. A normal boy from a normal world gets just finds out that he's a wizard and gets thrown into that. And it's a thing, but I prefer stories like Star Wars where it's a kid who's on a planet, not Earth.
Because their rules don't apply to us. Like, like Mass Effect as well. I've never played it, but like just the idea of, hey, like, here's just other worlds, other beings, other cultures, like nothing on Earth matters.
Yeah, and I also like the Inkle. Like, you're already in this universe. You have to get accustomed, like right now, right here, because not a lot of help's gonna happen. Like, okay, with the Inkle, luckily you have images to help you. Obviously, in books, it's a different case. You need someone to explain everything to you, but because that means you don't know what the fuck's going on. And in Star Wars example, that's obviously a visual medium, and it's like you probably would see the world as is, and but I still think you need a person there to experience something that is new to them in some shape or form, because that provides, and that's a really annoying thing for me, because if I try to come up with an idea, or like something that's fantasy, sci-fi, or something like that, I find it really hard, because I don't like implanting like, what's this about, and like, what's this, and like I find it annoying, because in my head I already know everything I want to show, but it's like, no, you also have to stop right there. You really need to explain these to newcomers that aren't in your own head. And it's like, I guess,
and then it's just like, if people don't understand, there's like, then what's the point? Like, yes, most of the things you make at the end of the day are for yourself, but people have to get along. Like, funny story, I had this idea for like this horror podcast, all centered around a hotel. That, like, just weird shit was happening at this hotel, different room, different story, and I had this idea in my head for about 4 years, and I have an album associated with it. And I remember one day I put on that album, and Spotify recommended me a podcast called The Hotel, and I clicked into it, and it was my idea verbatim. Like, it's like, oh, that's it right there. My fucking hotel story came alive and found me. Yeah. Because, like, it's kind of annoying, because, like, as you said there, like, it's the same premise, so like, what can I do to make it different? Mind you, I still have to listen to it. I'm kind of reluctant to it. If I listen to it and it's just like, oh, I'm gonna make it better, but it's been times, like I said, where I've come up with ideas and I think it's original, then I realize, wait a second, it already exists. But like I said earlier, nothing is original anymore. It's about what you put on it.
True, yeah.
Like, one thing that I want to start seeing more of that's kind of died, and we had this conversation, is just like urban legends. Like, you know,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
making your real world scary again. Like, you
Mm.
know, again, the name Bloody Mary was traumatic for a lot of kids, but you don't really have that anymore. Now
Mm.
it's Momo and the Slender Man and Jack the Killer.
Yeah.
Jeff the Killer, sorry. But like, you know, back then, like, you know, the idea of
I'm
like,
sure
hey,
people were in uproar the fact that you got Jeff the Killer wrong.
I actually wouldn't be very surprised. But that, like, you know, especially Irish ones. Irish ones are horrifying.
yeah, I mean, Banshees and
Yeah.
like Sirens Irish.
I don't know, but Banshees definitely are. And just the
Yeah,
idea
yeah.
of like, hey, there's just this screaming being that's going to predict your death, and it just won't stop until you're dead. Like, it's just,
Yeah, yeah.
and then like, of course you get the like the Lonely Road ones, like, you know, with the hook on the back of the door. But it's just,
Mm.
I kind of want to make real world is already horrifying in all the scary senses that I won't say because everyone knows, but just supernaturally wise, like, I don't think anyone's really afraid of ghosts anymore.
No.
Like, you know, top 15 scariest places in the world.
Yeah.
But like another thing I want to do as well is fairy tales, but actually have them as dark as they actually are.
Yeah. I mean, I think I remember watching a video about Artemis Fowl and how that was meant to be everything against the grain with fantasy. But I don't remember if they ever gone, because since I watched the video and I never
Hmm.
read Artemis Fowl. I think
It's set in Dublin.
yeah, it's and the kid's Irish in it. I think. And
Yeah, like, it is cool to see. Because, like, you know, a lot of Irish culture in general is just down to the leprechaun.
yeah, I mean, I think St. Patrick's Day has a lot to do with that, and
But, like, there is a lot of scary beings. Like, I would love to make a horror movie based in Celtic times. Where, like,
Yeah.
you know, there's witches and druids and woods.
I love that idea. That I mean, that's why I think a lot of people loved Lord of the Rings. I
Mm.
mean, a lot of those ideas. What the? Who's the?
J. Tolkien.
Yeah, Tolkien.
J.R. Tolkien, I think.
J.R. Tolkien. He went through a lot of fantasy and like looked
Mm.
through a lot of it and made it. He made it his own because a lot of those ideas were also originally his and is his.
And he's kind of like the grandfather of fantasy in a sense.
Yeah.
Because one thing a lot of people have to start doing as well for creativity is like, yes, like, you know, it's cool to look at like horror movies from America, but just start looking at culture outside. Like, you know, The Witcher 3, you know, all the monsters in that game are all inspired from Polish mythology. Like, their idea
Yeah.
of the vampires, the idea of all the monsters in that. It's like, it's cool to see different interpretations.
Mm.
Like, you know, one of my favorite vampire movies is Fright Night, the remake.
I love that movie. Yeah.
Like, the CGI on, you know, Jerry the Vampire didn't hold up. But the thing I love about that movie and that vampire is it plays by all the rules, but this vampire knows how to bend every single one of them to his
Yeah.
will. And one, like, the scariest scene to me in the movie was when the main character, Anton Yelchin, rest in peace, dude, you know,
Yeah.
where he sneaks into his house to save someone that Jerry lured in and started feeding on. And he's going through the house, he finds the feeding room, he looks in and sees him feeding on the girl, and then he gets out, only for her to die. But the scariest thing was, Jerry knew he was there the entire time.
Yeah.
And then, like, the other scene where, like, you know, he's like, come on, let me in. He's like, no, no. So he goes out the back, digs up the pipeline, and just blows the house up. Like, you don't need an invitation if a house isn't there.
Yeah.
Or, like, the scene where, like, you know, he grabs the cross like you need fate. Like, that is terrifying.
Yeah.
Like, one of my favorite ideas is taking the original idea, like vampires, zombies, and werewolves, condensing it to the one being and making that as scary as possible.
Mm.
Because, like, you know, fast zombies are cool and all, but what about the slow shambling ones? Don't they not deserve any love to be scary again? Like,
True.
with the fast ones, they feel like, you know, if you shoot them once, they're down. But, like, I feel like with a slow one, if you keep shooting them, they're just not going to stop.
Yeah. I mean, I like is it Return of the Living Dead? I think it's Return of the Living Dead, where I think that was I think it was made in the 80s. That was a movie where I was like, wow, zombies are fun.
Yeah.
I forgot how fun they could be. And these are slow, shambling zombies. But I think they are still kind of intelligent. There are beings that are trying to, which kind of like removes the original word of zombie, which
Yeah.
is just a mindless being. But in Return of the Living Dead, it's
Isn't that the one where like the melted zombie goes brains?
yeah. I love that scene.
It's such a visceral scene.
And then I also loved the aesthetic of like all the punks there. I really like that movie. It's a good movie.
Because like, I still feel like it's funny we didn't expect this one to be such a horror based conversation, but like
yeah,
horror, I still feel like it's very overlooked and people kind of throw their nose up at it.
yeah,
But horror is like some of the coolest ways you can experience a story. Like we mentioned, like Junji Ito, that other manga, Blood on the Tracks we were talking about,
yeah,
and just all the things we've talked about. Especially like with animation, like if you bring it back to the start, that like I want to see so much more like horror animation.
yeah,
Like the only way to really watch them on YouTube is like like the top 5 scariest animations. That's how I found a lot of them.
yeah,
But it's just the fact that you can have like a grotesque art style and it works. Whereas like with filmmaking, you kind of have to. It's a lot of visuals, but like I said, with animation, it's just the fact you can do whatever you want. Like I mean, that's why like Junji Ito is like kind of like the granddaddy of horror now.
yeah,
With visceral, like I'm so sad we won't get a Silent Hill game with him attached to it now.
yeah,
Because it would have been amazing seeing his ideas come to life.
yeah,
And there was a video that was recommended on my YouTube recently where Junji Ito was reacting and reviewing like internet monsters. And like his favorite one he saw was Siren Head.
yeah. Was it because of him that got it really popular, or it was
I
just,
don't.
like,
I think
way
it just got
after?
really popular
Yeah,
because it's just a visceral thing. But he just really loved the idea. But the kind of last thing I'll talk about, like we talked about like manga horror, comic horror, book horror. One thing that I was recommended last year, and you were probably recommended by someone I recommended it to, was a horror podcast known as the Magnus Archives.
yes. Owen recommended it to me,
Yeah.
and then you recommended it
Yeah,
to me.
I recommended it to him, and if you love stories about these beings that are bigger, like people are just trying to, it's like I don't want to give too much of it away because when it starts happening, like, oh my god, like the format is like we follow the main character who's just an archivist. He's archiving all the stories and he's reading them. And the thing I love about the first season is like he's doing his job, but he's so skeptic. He's like, oh, there's no way this could be true. There's no way this could be true. And I love that, like the analyzation.
Yeah,
But as it goes on and everything's happening, like it's one of those ones you gotta, if you pay, the more you pay attention to it, the more rewarding it is. And I would I'd highly recommend it because I started re-listening to it and I genuinely forgot how great the first few episodes are.
yeah,
Like the first episode, it's a very obscure one, but it sets the tone for it. And like I said, if you're ever just going on a walk and want to listen to something, I'd highly recommend it.
yeah.
Because
I've been going on the bus trips to Sportslink,
Yeah.
and
it's about 20 minutes to 40 minutes an episode on average. So
oh, that's nice. That's quite short. I like those. But I listened to I'm listening at the moment to this Hobbit audiobook that's on not Netflix, sorry, Spotify at the moment. That's about 10 hours, and I use that to walk, and while I'm in the gym
Yeah.
I also listen to it, and
yeah, I wouldn't recommend listening to Magnus while you're pumping iron.
there's
like,
literally a scene where he's just like he's in like a gym, and then I'm just like,
pumping. There is actually one of the stories is based in a gym.
oh,
Like,
That's-
it's like
that's
it's
cool.
somewhere in like,
hopefully I'm in the pool when that
Yeah.
happens. When that comes
but
on. Actually I can't listen
there's-
whatever.
like it's concluded. It wrapped up this year, but
Yeah,
it's given me this new like if you want to go down a more horror path, this one has given me such a new appreciation of horror. Because it started in 2016,
yeah,
and it's 5 seasons, 40 episodes. So like you can get it done in a matter of weeks. Like like I said, it's one where you like if you're walking or if you're on the bus and you just like you don't want to be doing really anything because it's one you got to pay attention to. But if you love the idea of like, hey, we're like a paranormal investigation bureau and we're looking into all these cases that have happened, because like there's going to be some stories that really get to you, like the ones the second episode and the third episode of Magnus are probably two of my favorites, and they're at the start. And like I don't like, you don't know what you're going to expect with each story. So there could be something like, oh, it doesn't scare me, but the next one you're like, oh my god. So like I said, that'd be one I'd highly recommend as a different form of medium, like, you know, horror based, where like you have to listen to it and it's all based on the sound design.
Yeah.
Because half of horror in media, especially in films, is the sound design. That's why jump scares get you. Whereas, like, you know, with Junji Ito, he has to get them really small panels and the big horrific panel.
Yeah, yeah.
But if you want one where it's just like, I'm just listening as this unfolds, because like, I will say that the season 4 finale of Magnus is probably one of my favorite endings to anything ever.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say why, but the people, like,
obviously,
yeah, people I've recommended it to who've got to that point were like, holy shit, you were right.
Yeah, yeah.
So like I said, it's one I'd recommend.
How many is there seasons of it?
There's 5 seasons, 40 episodes that range from 20 minutes to 40.
40 episodes in each season?
Yeah.
Okay.
And you'll know when it's season finale because it'll say like, season 2 of Magnus Archives will continue so and so. But
yeah,
the one thing I'll say about it is it has like a really long musical intro, so skip about a minute or two in.
Yeah.
But you'll get the knack of it. But like I said, I'd recommend if you just want, it's different takes on horror.
Yeah.
And like I said, I don't want to spoil it because I was blown away by it.
Yeah.
And it's a new avenue of horror.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a great way of like experience something. I mean, I think there's 2 books that I'm thinking of at the moment sorry. One was originally a radio show, and the other one became a radio show, which is that became a radio show was H.G. Wells's The War of the Worlds. That was
a big one.
Yeah.
That people actually thought the world was getting invaded.
Yeah, and then the other one is Hitchhikers, which was originally a radio show that he wrote into a book, which is fully voice acted and for each character and sounds for everything around them. And apparently, like, that's a lot of fans of Hitchhikers anyways say that's the best way to experience Hitchhikers is the radio show, and then the book, and then the British TV show, and then the movie. And I watched the movie a couple of years ago, and I've never watched the BBC TV show. And the book I'm reading at the moment, well, the series anyways, all 5 books, which I didn't even know there was 5. I had a collection that had 4, and this entire time I didn't know there was a 5th one.
So like, I gotta finish it.
Yeah, so I'm going through the second book. I'm probably going to read the audiobooks.
I'm
probably going to get the audiobooks for the last 3, because the first 2 were really hard to. It's for me, anyways, because I'm dyslexic and I have ADD. And
visuals help
you.
And I don't have that.
Yeah.
But it's just I find reading's the toughest one for me.
Yeah, yeah.
'Cause again, I'm a visual person. Like, you know, I want to get into filmmaking, so I like seeing things.
Yeah, yeah.
Or like if I'm listening to audiobooks, because then I don't have to worry about reading it and messing it up.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think in Hitchhikers, sometimes it gets really bad because the whole point of Hitchhikers, the guide of the galaxy, is the fact that everything's explaining a different thing. And I think at the point I'm reading at the moment, the second book is better written for me, or like for the likes of people like,
because a lot of the jargon is out of the way now.
Yeah. And then the first one goes much quicker than I remembered it, because I've read it a few years ago, and then I stopped because I read the first Hitchhikers, and I was just like, you know, I think I have enough conversation material here. And then then when I heard there's a 5th book and I only have 4 of them, I was just like, I kind of should just finish off the series, or I should. So I'm reading through the second book. I'm going to read through I'm going to get the audiobooks for the last 3 books, and then then I've experienced all of Hitchhikers. I probably should read or listen to the radio show, which apparently is the best way to experience it, but I'm not bothered.
Fair enough. Like I said, this podcast is a place for us to just go back and forth. Like, again, the whole theme of this episode is creativity, and we kind of went down a rabbit hole of horror creativity, which is important.
Or even like I went on a little tangent about adventure.
Yeah.
And how
that's kind of how we led to this. But like the goal for this is just we're not gonna. It's just us talking, kind of not inspiring, but putting ideas. Because like now he's recommended me stuff, I recommended his stuff. It's learning. Because like if you keep doing the same thing, like if you're just an animator and you keep animating, you're gonna grow to hate it. Like the whole point in creativity is trying new things. Like thanks to Magnus, I want to try and make something audible horror. Like, you know, I want to get back into short story writing and like make that stuff. I want to try animation. Whereas like with you, I say you'd want to try most of that stuff as well.
Yeah, I mean, I really want to try sound stuff. That's why I had a blast with the music thing we referred to at the beginning of this, where I messed around.
Yeah,
it became a bit weird,
abstract.
But yeah, I really did love that. Working with sound,
and like we were toying around with some future episodes could literally just be stories we've come up with. Like we can go back and forth, even if it's always going to turn into something crap. But who knows? Like, you know, we can produce something that's like well produced. Because like I said, we're going to do this every 2 weeks just so it isn't stagnant and we're just talking about the same things. We don't really want to talk about the real world because the real world is scary.
Yeah, man. Free Britney.
So that's how we're gonna end it then. Free Britney. End the conservatorship.
The conservatorship, or keep the conservatorship, but she's in control of the conservatorship, which means there's no conservatorship, which means bazinga.
This is why we won't talk about real world stuff. But like I said, shortly after I go through this at compression, have a listen, release it, we'll probably release the episode 0 and hate it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it. Adios, chums.
Bye.